Okay, so up next, I would like to welcome Saad Hameed from Game District, who will be talking about recognizing the value of games that retain. So please welcome Saad.
So perfect. Let's start. I hope you guys have a good time last night, but I think we'll like to have some more good time. So let me talk about how we can recognize and get the best out of the retention from our players. So let's talk about what my company is. So I'm heading Games District, which is one of the biggest mobile game developer and publisher in the MENAP region. So MENAP region is the next biggest region which is forming right now, which is Middle East, North Africa, Pacific. There is over 2 billion players out there, which usually don't have players like internet before 5 years back. Now Africa is emerging market, is one of the biggest emerging markets in the world, and Middle East is one of the biggest mobile game players is coming from Middle East. So this is one of the biggest market, and we are the biggest ecosystem out there. So when we talk about the ecosystem, we help small gaming companies and turn them into a big enterprises. We have been working with all these 7 companies from last 5 years, and we turning them into profitable $1 million companies. And now we are working with 8 more studios, and we helping them grow. So the biggest problem we have, and as Steve Jobs says, so we are very hungry, and we always do foolish things. So stay hungry, stay foolish. So when we started with this mobile game thing, the biggest thing what we have seen over the past 5 years, that mobile stores are aggressively crowded. It's very aggressively crowded. Every day you see thousands of games coming in, and those 5 years back, you come up with a narrative, you tell a story and everything, and then help a user to get up to a new limit to your game, and your rotations are good and everything. But over the period of time, what we have realized that only calculating retention is not it is important, but it's not the only way you can scale up your games. So the most important things, other than the data analytics and the churn rates, is something what we call it is the we want to see that what is the next thing that who can where we can able to get our retentions better. So we studied all these 6 games with our core team, who's expert in game designing, retention, monetization, and we see in the last 5 years what these 5 or 6 game has to offer, which we can get learnings from. So I think with the basic if we call retention is the mother of mobile gaming, for getting our users best. So I think the habit creation is the heart of retention. So we see over the last 5 years that there's the games who able to create great habit creation for their player. They have better retentions in day 1, day 7, day 30. So this is the what we call it the heart of mobile games retention is the habit creation. So how does we have sorted out that how you create habits into the early retention of your game. So there is actually 4 things where you play based on your strategy and based on your games, that if you play around these 4 things, there will be a nice chance that you will create a great habit for your players. So these 4 things are reward, monetize, ability, and trigger. So we'll talk about it more, but this is, we call it the habit cycle or habit growth chart. So if we talk about these 2 games, and we see these games, they just start creating very early habits to their gameplay. Probably all of these both of these games have been played a lot of users. And Coin Master is something it's a casual casino game. It's one of the first in the genres, and we see that how they create a habit of not just clicking on the slot, but get your user to a new place and build something out of it, and they give you rewards like anything. This is the habits they have just started early on. They do have a narrative, but the narrative comes in after a while. After 3-4 days, they build a story about, and the social features comes in. So the thing is now the players retain on the mobiles is very less. So they just spend very less time on the mobile. So as early as you get this habit creation, get into your game, it's really, really helpful for them. Same with the headball too. Headball too creates a great retention with their winning strategy. So what they give it to you when you start the game, you start winning, 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 winning. And we talk more about this winning strategy for multiplayer games and everything. When you win, you got a dopamine, and you say, okay, I'm a pro player, and you get your retentions better. So these are the 6 basic things what we have like written down and what we have like tracked down from the 6 games over the past 5 years, which have been like really, really well. That how we can create a better retention strategy with a habit creation in our mind. So the first thing these games do with their habit creation strategy is that they position their players to win. If you play these games, they are very forgiving. You do a smaller 80%, probably you're right 20%. You don't get on the bullseye. You win. So that's how you create the habit retention. So the winning is one thing which mobile users love very much. So this is the they position games for when if you wanted to learn from the developers, these 2 games I just wanted to mention you. If you play Golf Clash or if you play Hill Climb Racing 2, both of these games are they just you get into that and you start winning. You start if you play Golf Clash, you start feel like you're a pro golfer. Though a person like me has never played golf, but in Golf Clash I'm a really pro player. So same with Hill Climb Race. They have this data that at what level, if you go up to a level 20, 30, they probably have the cars from the analytics point of view. They know that what cars are best on this level. So if you even fail, they suggest you, okay, get this car, and you have a better chance to win this level. So winning is the best thing. The second thing we believe is that they actively measure the player's progression. So player's progression is very nice. So we see that in couple of games the player progress over the period of time from beginning, ongoing, and game in the later in the gameplay. They have a progression. So they just don't throw everything right on at the beginning. They just go with the player's flow. That is the curve they have to manage. That what they wanted to show it, and the early on, what they wanted to show at the second level of their progression, and what is going at the end of the progression, how they want to take it. So developer they can manage their players' progression in a serverless way. Give players clear goal. In Golf Clash, you have a goal. You are playing with someone. You wanted to go into that and put the ball in, and then they visualize major milestone features, so players can understand that why they are here for the game. 5 years back, we see all these games Angry Birds and everything. They have a narrative. They have a clear goal, but that clear goals come with a story. The storyline was very important 5 years back. You see that all these Rio birds, you wanted to get them free, so you can play more, get the birds free. But now, as we see that there is no huge emotional connection with a narrative-based game. So when you get into the game, it's very clear what your goals are, and player has to understand what you wanted to go with the game. So if we talk about this game, Archero is one of my favorites game, and you see it's a very different game in terms of it's a very different gameplay. So the way how they create the narrative, every stage, it's a probably 20 level 20 level gameplay for a 1 chapter, and for that 1 chapter they just cut that 20 levels into smaller pieces. So you do one stuff, and then you have new kind of strategy, new kind of armor you play with, and it's keep changing. The retention is so high with this because the game session for the smaller level is so small, but in a huge level they just give you a gameplay for about 10-15 minutes, and after 15 minutes you realize that okay, I'll just clear the chapter. But that 15 minutes actually cut down into 30 smaller levels, which is 30-second level. If we see that right now there's another game from the same studio called Survival.io, which is trending right now on the stores. So the third thing what we see from the players who just wanted to create this habit loop is the companies ask the player what they want. So I think the players' loyalty is the most important thing for any studio. They wanted to know that who are their most effective player, how they are playing this game, and how their habits is actually creating the loop for the overall situation for the game. So if we talk about this township, it's in one interesting game. We have played this town games from years to years, but how they get the data from the players is amazing. They get sometime get small pools that how you wanted to build this town, and they have a lot of smaller details here and there, and out of that details, when you fill it, you get some rewards, you get some free coins or something. But out of that data, when you fill, or they just planned it really well in the game, the more you play the game, the more their developer get to know that what their players want and how they wanted to see their growing. So these are the 8 things what we have tracked down from a game called from Townscare, that how they get these data from the players. So they social listing, simple and quick in-game polls, and then longer targeted questions during the gameplay. So analytics and review and rating. So they just give a lot of weightage to the review and rating. They read the review, they answer them really closely, and they got millions of reviews. So I think this is one thing we have to take from Township. The user testing, and then in-depth person interviews they do for their games, for their whales and everything. They publish it on their website, they publish on their social. It's huge way, and they go with the super testers. The super testers are rock stars for any game. So they just tell you from the empathy perspective, from design thinking perspective, that what is going to have in this game. If this going to be have in game, it would be huge. The fourth thing is the variable reward to the next level. So if we play any of these 5 games, the rewarded system is actually, they have a smooth curve that what the parameters of the rewards they are giving for each and other users. If we talk about these learning, again, these three games are on the top in giving the rewards. You get into the game, you start playing into the game. They have a specific RNG tool where the random number generation is tell the developer that this player is coming after how many days, or this session is played after how many hours. And once they develop this RNG number, they give you more rewards. So just imagine if you get into the Coin Master game, 3 days after the first session you played it, you get rewards like anything. So if a person get after 5 hours, they get less rewards. But if you are playing after 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, this RNG mechanics is so professional and smooth that they give you reward. They just feel you that you're special, and that is something, the best learning we can see from these games. Fifth thing we wanted to see that they adapt player life cycle to the game mechanics. So they actually track you from the day one. It's cool, you get the player, but how to make a player from day one to a journey to day 30 is the most difficult period for any game developer. So right now we see all these casual, mid-core, or hyper-casual game. We will only talk about day one. But when we talk about the casual games, the biggest journey, I think, which starts with the first step is the day one, but the day 30 is something everyone dreamed of, because that's the player journey you calculate, and that's how player used to pay for your game. So in the short term, mid term, and the long term, they calculate it. So if we talk about certain games Golf Flash, in the short term, from day 1 to day 7, what they optimize is that they optimize this interaction actions, rebalance the difficulty curve, so they can have like a better day 1 to day 7 retention. Then for the midterm retention from day 8 to day 30, they have like developed with a different strategy, which is like greater sense of goal. They introduce clan systems, so you feel like you are a part of something, a bigger initiative or something. Then after the day 30, which we call it like a long-term goal they have set for their game, is like continues developing new things, like so you get into the game, you play for the 30 days. Okay, it's a Halloween match, you wanted to play with a like pumpkin ball and something. So that's like make the players like keep motivated about this. And they continuously test. So every day you see these games, and there will be like plenty of screens. Either probably you are from India or Japan. You see that they customize screens according to you. You are in Turkey. You see a lot of kebabs and anything from this township games. So they continuously test according to the empathy of the user, the geolocation of the location, and how much they wanted to pay. So even they target their players, like if they see that the country or the geolocation has a less spending, they just give you better deals, and they test continuously. That is the biggest and the foremost, I believe, the most interesting part of these games is that they test really aggressively. I believe that in the last 3 years, I have seen like this township games actually have, for the new user, they have been at least tested 200 icons. So that's all for today. And if you have any question, I would love to answer them. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Saad. So we do have some time for some questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I'll come over. Yep. Hello. There you go.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for your talk.
Excuse me? I can't hear that.
Sorry?
Okay, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I can see in your portfolio that you're working on some hyper-casual games as well. So based on your experience, which feature you think that has a huge impact on retention on that kind of genre?
Testing. I think with a hyper-casual game, there is a very misleading thing is that the only way to make your hyper-casual game successful is a publisher. This is the biggest misconception I have seen over the past 3-4 years. Even you do testing on a game which have less retention with a great creatives, ads and everything, you see probably your geolocation is bad. You just change your monetization strategies. You get the LTV improve. Even I've seen games which have day 125. They've just made a lot of dollars for the companies. So I think for the hyper casual games, you have to work on the strategy. Testing is very important, and then the second thing is that the core gameplay. If your core gameplay is simple and fun for the hyper casual game, you're bang on. You can really create something phenomenal. We have been there, tested, and we have seen the results. Yeah.
Brilliant. We only had time for one question now, unfortunately, but you'll be able to find Saad throughout the venue, of course, awesome. Or through Meet to Match or LinkedIn if you have any other questions. And yeah, connect with them then. Awesome. So can we get a round of applause for Saad?
Thank you.